Hello, my name is Dewart. I am your instructor in oceanography, and let me put a little information up on the board here for you. And my name is Dewart. And I'll be your instructor. And I hope I'll be seeing you on weekends. I want to say a few things, first of all, about the subject matter that's going to be covered here. We're looking at the oceans. And the oceans cover more than 2/3 of the surface of our planet. A little globe here to show you. Here's our Earth rotating around. And as we'll see later on, that rotation of the Earth itself has a significant impact on what's going on in the oceans. This is a survey course. We'll be going into a number of different fields, trying to cover just about everything which is done in the field of oceanography. We'll be looking at the water itself and what's in it, both organic and inorganic, and we'll be looking at the impact the oceans have on the atmosphere, on what we call the geosphere, the rocky part of the Earth, the biosphere, living things, okay? And as part of the hydrologic cycle, which takes water out of the oceans and brings it over the land, and then it comes back again. So the oceans are fundamental, to what's going on our planet, and we think that life, in fact, began there. Remember, the Earth is about 4.5 billion years old. During most of that time, there were oceans, and during most of the time that the oceans were there was life. So we'll be spending a fair amount of time in the course looking at life in the oceans, one of the more interesting parts of what we'll be covering. Now, our approach to this is one that covers all the different sciences, really. We'll be looking at physics, we'll be looking at chemistry, we'll be looking at biology, okay? And from a earth science point of view, we'll be looking at the atmosphere, we'll be looking at geology, and we'll be looking at what we call the hydrosphere. And the hydrosphere includes not just the water in the liquid form, but also in the solid form. Because remember that seasonally, the northern hemisphere winter, southern hemisphere winter, large part of the ocean is covered by ice, so we have to cover that also. Well, my background in this, involves a lot of time I've spent on the oceans. I've had some research projects that I've covered. One of them was very interesting, and this was looking at certain type of seabirds that you may be familiar with, the penguin. And we were telemetering the temperature of penguin eggs, in the nest, when the adults were sitting on them. Okay, and this was a very interesting project. Another one that I was involved in was looking at the sea caves between the Antarctic ice, the big glaciers coming down to the shore, and huge fields of ice which have formed out over the ocean. Okay, between them there's a big gap which gets covered over eventually by snowdrifts, and the interior of that is extremely interesting. It's one of the quietest places on Earth because the ice crystals that form inside of those caves are very good absorbers of sound. So it's an acoustically dead area. So that was another interesting thing that I was involved in. I've been on all the oceans. I've been sailing across the oceans, mostly on U.S. Coast Guard or Navy ships, and I've worked along the shore with the Navy construction battalions, also known as the Seabees. Okay. Well, our course is going to be covering all of those things, and that's kind of the background from which I'm going to be approaching these different subjects. Now, the ITV course that we're working with here, is really has 3 basic parts to it. One part is the videos, okay, and this will be really taking you on kind of a visual field trip. You go out there, you'll see what oceanographers are doing. You can see some of the oceanic phenomena, waves crashing against the coast, okay, for example, or large storms coming up over the ocean, producing storm surges and so on. We'll see oceanographers at work, finding out what's on the surface of the ocean and what's down in the depths of the ocean also. Okay, so there's a lot going on there. There'll be some very interesting interviews with some of the leading people in the field of oceanography, or marine science as we also call it. Okay, so this is extremely important. We have a book here which is recommended. You don't have to buy it, but it is recommended, which goes along lesson by lesson in the video segment of the course. There are 26 of these half-hour segments, okay, and they go right through the course. They'll be starting on the 20th of February, and it's very important that you do watch those. It's a very important part of the course. It's the visual part of the course, where you really get a good feel for just what oceanography is doing. This particular book here goes along lesson by lesson. It also is very interesting because it gives you a lot of questions which will be similar to the ones, if not the same, that we have on our exams and on our tests. And they also give you the answers, which is very nice. Okay. However, the basic book in the course, which is required, is our textbook here, the oceanography textbook. Okay, and this notice, whereas we have 26 of the video lessons, we have 18 chapters in the book. So we have to coordinate, the video lessons and the chapters in the book. And that's why it's very important to look at our syllabus and understand it very well, what's going on there. Okay. Now, the book is something that you really have to be familiar with. You have to go along and read it chapter by chapter. And it has some very interesting pictures in it, and sketches and maps and so forth. The appendix in it is extremely useful, and I'll be routing you to certain parts of that appendix where it becomes, something that we really need to know about. Okay, so remember, this is really the foundation of the course, and it is something that you have to be familiar with and that you have to read and understand. Any questions that come up, please ask your instructor. Okay, well, another part of the course, in addition to the video part, is the online segment. Okay, so go to our website, and once you get there, the first thing to look for when you get to the website is the announcements. You'll see there, right at the top of the page, because this is where I'll be telling you what's going to be coming up, in the not too distant future, or giving you warning, well in advance, of things like tests or reports or something that might be due or something that's very important that you might be looking at. So first of all, look at those announcements. Then on that website, over on the left-hand side, you'll see a series of blocks in which you can enter important parts of the course. One of these is the syllabus. Be sure you read the syllabus. It's important that you read it, that you understand it, that you see what you're going to be asked to learn in the course. We'll have the learning objectives there. The various things which we're going to be doing in the course are there, and also some of the grading is there. This is where you get into our online quizzes. Okay, this is where we have several online reports for you to do, and this is also where we have discussions. We have discussion topics which will be going along week by week, and in fact they're already starting. The first couple of weeks we have 2 of these discussions which are up for you to answer. Now all 3 of these, the tests, the reports, and the discussions, okay, are all something that you get graded on. So it's very important that you are ready for these. The tests, for example, usually are maybe 10 questions, multiple choice type questions, very similar to the types of questions that you'll have on your exams. Okay. Now remember, you have a certain amount of time to do it. Okay, you have 1 hour usually in which to complete it. Okay, so you want to get that finished, but you usually have about a week in which to actually enter the test, and take it. So you have plenty of time. You don't have to jump into it right away. Okay, make sure you're ready for it. You'll know kind of what's going to be coming up, what chapters are going to be covered in it, what videos are going to be covered in it. So you can be well prepared for it. You don't have to go right away after a couple of days of studying for it. Then you can enter it, and be pretty confident you're going to get a pretty good grade in that. We'll also have some online reports which are giving you a topic and asking you to write several paragraphs about it. They're relatively short, okay, but they say they're kind of comprehensive in the things that are going to be covered. And then we have our weekly discussions, which you also can get a grade for. So be sure to get into that. Okay, let's see the online segment. Lots of information there, lots of things to do. Some of the grading takes place there also. The third segment of the course, in addition to the videos and the online segment, is our weekly meetings. These are weekend meetings. And notice, you're not tied to any one of our locations or times. We have meetings on Saturday morning and afternoon and Sunday morning and afternoon, all at different locations. So for your convenience, you don't have to go to any one of those. You can switch around to go to different ones. You know, the basic delivery that I'll be giving will be the same at each one of these. And at these meetings, here you have face-to-face encounter with the instructor. We can have discussions here, we'll have lectures, we'll have demonstrations of different things. So it's very important that you come to these. Okay, if you have any questions that you want to bring up, you know, bring them up at these meetings. Now also notice in the online segment we have a private message line that you can use to get to directly to the instructor. So remember that also. But at the meetings we are going to be going over these things in a very broad way, kind of looking at the whole thing, trying to tie it together. And that's why it's very important that you do come to these meetings. Okay. Also, the meetings and outside of the online part of the course, there's some other grading that takes place. It is at the meeting, so we have our exams. We're going to have a midterm exam and a final exam, and a large part of the grade goes into those. Now, those exams are largely multiple choice questions, which you use a Scantron for, but also some essay questions. A part of it will be essay questions where you have a choice of writing about several different topics. Okay. So these exams, very important, you know, that you show up to the exams. Again, you can come to any of those times and locations, you know, for the exams. So we make it very convenient for you. If you should miss one of these exams, get in touch with us right away, you know, and we can design a makeup for you. But it's important that you do that very, very quickly if you have missed one of the exams, or if you know in advance that you won't be able to make it that weekend. If something has come up that you can't make it there. But again, we try to make it as convenient for you as possible, because you can come to any of those four places and times. Yeah. A couple of other things that are done kind of outside of the online segment of the course are two research papers that we have. The first one is relatively short, and it's due before the first exam. Okay, and there I give you topics, and you can choose one of the topics. The second one, the larger report, is due before the final exam, and it is pretty open. I welcome, you know, people coming up with ideas, with new ideas, different ways to approach things, and you can cover either a restricted topic, sort of like a scientific paper, you know, covering part of the course, or you can write a biography of one of the important people in oceanography, or you can write a very generalized view of the oceans, or something recent that has come up that is important about oceanography. You know, any of these things. You can describe one of your own experiences if it ties in to things in the course, and you can, you know, make those connections to the things which you've learned in the course. Okay, so this is an important part of your grade. There's also an extra credit report, which is not required. This is optional. But if you want to add some points to your grade, you know, you can write another report, which is also due towards the end of the course. And finally, your attendance, you do get some points for coming, so you get a little bit of reward. In addition to the reward of actually being at the meeting, you have a reward of points for, you know, attendance. Well, we're going to be covering a lot of things, so I'm happy that we can start off, you know, kind of running now. And I say we're going to be covering a lot of topics which will be very interesting and very informative for you. Thank you very much.